Hey crafty friends, this is Jenny from crafttestdummies.com, and today I have a review and demo of the surface inks from Brutus Monroe. And what you're going to see here are these amazing looking and very, very messy because I have had time to play with them. And they are labeled as multi-surface ink, not to be used for kids, harmful if swallowed, shake them well. They're permanent on most surfaces once heat set and can be layered, which is really cool. So you can also use it as a watercolor. So I got a sampling of these colors, and I will take you through the swatches first things first. Again, as you can see, they're already pretty well loved. So let me pick one that I know is going to show up well on paper and kind of show you how they spray. If you spray close up, you're going to get kind of a big splatter, but if you go further away, you're going to get more of this kind of a freckle pattern. Now, because this is still wet, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of water and kind of show you what happens when you mist it out. You notice how it really does lighten up significantly. To me, this indicates that they are very heavily concentrated, and if you wanted to just squirt some on a piece of plastic and mix it into a lighter wash color, that might be a nice thing to do, just because you're gonna get a lot of mileage out of this one spray. Also, I've noticed this, and I'll show you on some of their samples, it has a tendency to kind of move and migrate a little bit and leave some of these little freckly marks when used full strength. So again, it's just kind of it's an interesting way that the pigment separates out from the media. But we'll go through and I'll show you some different dried samples as well. So I was mentioning those freckles, so what I wanted to do was dry this for you so that you could actually see as I'm drying it underneath the heat. You see how like those little, it's like there are little explosions of white space and then they kind of settle back out again. I don't know what that means, except just be prepared that it actually creates these little textures on its own, which I think is really, really cool. Okay, so I'm still struggling with lighting in my new studio because I'm in the basement and I don't have natural light, but I think this is going to give you a pretty clear indication if I show you on this black background. So this one is called Wagon, and I believe it's the one I just showed you. It is definitely kind of a faded red wagon look versus like a fire engine red, and I just want to make sure you had a nice solid color here to look at. By the way, this is on about 85 pound weight cardstock, and I will show you that there's a lot of water because all of these curled. So I would like to see these be used on heavier cardstock, maybe north of 110, just to avoid the curling or make sure you weighed it. This is called Cornflower, a really pretty vivid blue. This is called Rouge. We've got Oz, and of course this is kind of like that tealy color that I absolutely love. This is Suede, and it seems like a pretty boring brown until you start mixing it with other things. Then it gets exciting. Jurassic, which is a lovely kind of a lawn green color, a little more on the olivey side. Sidewalk, and you can barely see this because this is a very light gray blue. Again, not real exciting until you start mixing with other things. And a color that I absolutely adore, which is called Phone Book, which to me is definitely like a marigold color. But if you notice, if you mix in these three colors, you have kind of the cyan, magenta, and oh, what's the other one called? The yellow, that kind of create all of the colors. So they really are fun to mix. I also did a little bit of just spraying over the top while it was still wet. And I think it's really important to notice that if you don't add any water, what you get is this kind of an overlay look. And as I sprayed one on top of the other, it definitely looks layered or patinaed, which I find really exciting. They didn't immediately blend into each other, which I think is a good thing because then you can really kind of see the color definitions. Now, here's another thing I was super duper excited about. I actually I stenciled this with white alabaster, the Brutus Monroe alabaster ink pad through a stencil, and then I sprayed on top, and it looked I think this is just amazing. It's almost like a resist, and you see that texture come through. But again, even though I sprayed them basically right after each other, it absorbed into the paper pretty quickly, and what you see is this kind of freckling effect versus things getting all wet and blending. Now you do get some of that blend here, but I really had to add more water, and I'll show you what that was like. So this is the sample that I made with watercolor paper. Still, I used a lot of water, and I couldn't help myself, guys. I'm gonna apologize. I had to put in some mica mists. I think I used this, oh, it's the Wendy Vecchi Mica Spray Pearl, because it really wanted it. And I love sparkly things. If Brutus Monroe had sent some of this, I would have used it. But anyway, so I blended it with both water and with Perfect Pearls. And you can see where I applied it thickly over the top. See those little bubbles almost? That was a pervasive trait. And notice how I even got some of those bubbles here. Those aren't watermark stains, they're bubbles that kind of come up and they repel things. But I did get some overlay. If I added extra water, it would blend together. So I would encourage you, if you want to make this of a more blendy technique, to make sure your water bottle is handy. And then I did some dripping and some moving, and you'll see where I was blending things, it just got really gorgeous and rich and exciting. But they are concentrated. They really can handle some watering down without a loss of integrity in the colors. Now I just wanted to show you this because I was doing some spraying on black, and at first I got all excited. I'm like, oh look, they're gonna show up. But as they dried, they faded back into not very much. What you really see is where I sprayed some Perfect Pearls on top, and then there was just enough of a reflection for these surface inks to show up. You can see even as I'm talking, it's starting to fade back into nothing. So I really do recommend these on light surfaces. Okay, so now I have two samples here, and the Oz color I have heat set, and the Cornflower I did not heat set because it said that it's, once you heat set it, it is permanent on most surfaces, and this is just paper, so I thought it would be a good thing to try. So first we're gonna start and see how it works on the heat set paper, and I'm just gonna drag it through quite a few times just to see if as it gets, you know, wet. And I don't see any pulling or lifting of the color at all. When I go to rinse the brush, there's nothing even on the brush. So again, this has been sitting for a couple days, but it's not heat set. Let's do the same thing here. And I don't notice any measurable difference. So it looks like once it's dry, at least on paper, it's not gonna lift. And why this is important to you is that then if you want to put other collage mediums on top, say you wanna cover this with some gel medium or use it in decoupage, these colors are not gonna move and blend and smudge all the way around. So this is a great option for those of you who like to work in layers and use other water-based media. So I did want to try it on multi-surfaces because that's what it said it was for, and I sprayed this bottle cap with a couple of different colors. It kind of bled. That little bubbling technique happened, and I'm going to just tell you that, you know, without heat setting it or anything, I can really just lift that color right back up. So I thought it might be fun to take some of these surface inks, just put them on a craft mat, and then use them almost like a watercolor paint. So I put some down here. By the way, this is the Tim Holtz Multimedia Mat, and I do have a review on that, so I will include a link in the card section and maybe at the end. But I just used a water brush, and as you can see, I was able to lift up the color, get some really nice, pretty saturated colors, and I actually colored in this embossed image. This is also a Brutus Monroe stamp and embossing powder, so I will be doing some reviews on that too. I also wanted to share that I tested this on a canvas bag, and I sprayed it, I heat set it, I ran it through the washer, and this is how it came out. So this is actually the after. It dulled just a little bit, but really it was almost negligible. And here on the handles where I did not heat set, it got much, much lighter. So yes, if you heat set it, I do believe that it is pretty vibrant on the fabric. And here's a picture of the back so you can see what that looked like with some stencils. So there you have it. Here are my finished samples. I really found them to be very vibrant, lots of fun, and something that I will be reaching for again, especially if I'm going to do some collaging over the top. So thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe for more great crafty videos, and check the end cards for other videos you may enjoy. Thanks for watching, and have a crafty day.